So this is probably like my 4th video tonight. Something always goes wrong, but let me just try to remake it. Hopefully the sound is better this time. So, oh my gosh. Okay. The last video I made was the 7 habits of defective dating. This next lesson is 5 attitude changes to avoid defective dating. Number 1, every relationship is an opportunity to model Christ's love. So especially when you're talking to someone who isn't in church, make sure that you don't disrespect them, are rude to them, say things that you shouldn't, because you're being an example of God's love. So always be careful what you do or say. Number 2, my unmarried years are a gift from God. I've said this before in other videos, that singleness is a gift from God. Don't ever be discontent with it, because it is truly a gift, and to enjoy it, because you don't know how long it'll last. Number 3, I don't need to pursue a romantic relationship before I'm ready for marriage. If you are not ready for commitment or marriage, you're not financially, emotionally, physically, mentally stable or ready, don't push yourself into a situation that you're not ready for. Number 4, I cannot own someone outside of marriage. If you liked it, then you should have put a ring on it. If you're not married, you do not have the right to say you own someone or someone's yours, because the only one who technically owns you is God. So don't, if you're in a controlling relationship, that isn't good, first of all, because no one should be that possessive over you. But you do not own someone, and someone does not own you, so be careful in those situations. Those aren't usually healthy. Number 5, I will avoid situations that can compromise the purity of my heart and mind. That speaks for itself, so just be careful with the situations you put yourself in. Basically, this lesson talked about giving God your all, and you can't expect God to give you everything if you're giving yourself half-heartedly. Ephesians 4:22-24. You were taught with regard to your former way of life to put off your old self, which is being corrupted by its deceitful desires, to be made new in the attitude of your mind, and to put on the new self, created to be like God in true righteousness and holiness. Are you willing to let go of the world's dating to get God's best? Think about that pretty much. Just, God has so much in store for you in terms of everything pretty much. Especially when you're single, God has so much to give you, and when you kind of rush something that's not in the right time, which we'll talk about in a few minutes, you're kind of selling yourself short, because God has so much in store for you, and you're just trying to rush something that's not in the right timing. Hebrews 12:1. Therefore, since we are surrounded by such a great cloud of witnesses, let us throw off everything that hinders and the sin that so easily entangles us, and let us run with perseverance the race marked out for us. Where, when, and whom you go with reveals your true intentions of purity. That speaks for itself also. What you do, what you say, who you're with, I think I just said that. What you're doing, all those reveal how you truly feel about purity. 1 Corinthians 10:31, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do it all for the glory of God. Every time you do something, every time you say something, think about what you're doing and what you're saying, because that is a reflection of God, since God lives in you. Little note, God is your first love. Are you willing to submit everything to God? That were the last things on my notes. So basically, it was just about giving your all to God, letting Him use you as He pleases, because in your singleness, you have so many opportunities and so many things that you could be doing for the kingdom right now. So stop worrying about relationships. Okay, second lesson, I believe this is chapter 5. Looking up love in God's dictionary. There were 2 stories out. One was about a relationship. His friend showed that their love for each other by being physical. And his excuse was it was the right time to show each other's love. They ended up breaking up, marrying other people, and it's just kind of silly because it happens a lot though, that you give yourself to someone and you don't even end up with them, and it kind of ruins it for the future. Talked about this in the first video. Another story was another couple's definition of love. They waited to kiss until they were at the altar, and you can tell that they had a lot of love for each other because they were so passionate and so respectful for each other that they decided to wait until they were married. And you can just tell their love and passion for each other was true and was real because they cared about each other that much. 3 lies of the world's definition of love. Love is fulfillment of self, love is based on a feeling, and love is beyond our control. When you think about God's definition of love, you'll see that it is nothing compared to what other people define love as. And the verse that comes to mind is it does in the book too, is 1 Corinthians 13. The first few verses basically say that if you have everything, if you can be the smartest person in the world, you can have the most money in the world, you can be the most beautiful, the most handsome, but if you don't have love, it means nothing and you gain nothing. So I'm going to say the verse, and as I'm reading it, think of the definition of love. This is God's definition of love and how love should be. And if you yourself or you know someone who's in a relationship, have them think about this, or you think about this and the definition of love. And if your relationship isn't following these, then maybe you shouldn't be in it. Love is patient. Love is kind. It is not envy. It is not boast. It is not proud. It is not rude. It is not self-seeking. It is not easily angered. It keeps no record of wrongs. Love does not delight in evil, but rejoices in the truth. It always protects, always trusts, always hopes, always perseveres. Love never fails. After saying the 3 lies of the world's love, you see that it's not true love. A fulfillment of self, when God's love is selfless. It's about pleasing others, not yourself. Based on a feeling, usually based on physical, and that's not what love is about. Talked about in previous videos. Love is beyond your control. A lot of people say that when they're cheating, when love is really patient, love is patient and love is kind. It's not beyond your control because you do have the choice to say no or stop it. A quote for you: we cannot love like God loves and date as the world dates. And after reading the Bible verse about love and talking about the world's definition of love, you can see that clearly, because if you have love like God has, then you pretty much can't date like the world dates, because they're 2 different definitions of love. One is all about me, and God's love is about you and Him. So basically that's why it's good to fall in love with God first, because you understand the meaning of love. And that's why a lot of relationships that aren't with a Christian and non-Christian don't work out, because you guys don't have the same definition of love. How can someone love like God loves if they can't even understand God's love? That's basically what the lesson is about, God's definition of love, which is 1 Corinthians 13. starting at verse 4. And the ultimate example of love would be the cross. The fact that God loved us enough to lay down his life for us is the most beautiful thing, and we can't ever forget that. And God should always be your first love, and you can't ever forget the cross. And there is no greater love than a man who would lay down his life for a friend, and that's true. That's basically that lesson. Then the next lesson is about timing. So I'm going to read to you Ecclesiastes 3. If I can find it. Okay. There is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. A time to be born and a time to die. A time to plant and a time to uproot. A time to kill and a time to heal. A time to tear down and a time to build. A time to weep and a time to laugh. A time to mourn and a time to dance. A time to scatter stones and a time to gather them. A time to embrace and a time to refrain from embracing. A time to search and a time to give up. A time to keep and a time to throw away. A time to tear and a time to mend. A time to be silent and a time to speak. A time to love and a time to hate. A time for war and a time for peace. This lesson is, if I didn't say it already, is about timing. The right thing at the wrong time is the wrong thing. So just because you think that he may be the perfect guy or she may be the perfect girl, if it's not the right timing and it's not in God's timing, it's not going to work out. A good thing taken out of its appropriate season can be destructive. It can lead you down the wrong path. It can make you do things that you shouldn't be. It can make you rush into something you're not ready for. Basically, you don't need to shop for something you can't afford. Let me look up something that I saw by Defective. See if I can find it. Basically, okay, well basically it kind of said that. It was talking about you go into a store shopping for something with no money, you're going to end up taking some, okay, you go to a store with no money is like dating with no intentions of commitment. You go into the store and end up unhappy and taking something that wasn't yours, or you end up unhappy. Something like that. I wish I had the time to look at it for it. But anyways, any season of singleness is a gift from God. There was a story about something similar to the movie Click. I look that way because I have the movie over there. But for kind of rushing your life and going through life and moving forward because you're unhappy with what's going on. But we need to be content in our singleness and don't look at it as a bad thing, because it is a gift. A question you should ask yourself is, does impatience motivate you to date? You probably had moments like that, or know someone who dated just because they were lonely, or just because they wanted a boyfriend or wanted a girlfriend. A lot of the times, impatience and loneliness motivate you to date someone when it's not the right timing. If any man be lost for my sake, he will find himself. So once you truly lose yourself in God, you will find true happiness and fulfillment. And then God, when the time is right, will give you someone. Philippians 4:12-13 is the next verse. A lot of us know verse 13, but the verse before talks about contentment. I know what it is to be in need, and I know what it is to have plenty. I have learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. I can do all three things through Christ who strengthens me. we have God's love, and we should be content in that, and a lot of the times we're not, because we're not fully giving ourselves, as in the lesson before this. When you give all yourself to God, you will truly be content. But if you're not truly content in that, then you're not giving all of yourself. God called us to live now. You're single for a reason, so enjoy it and let God use you and take you to a higher level, so that when you get married, you can have a lot to talk to your future spouse about, and you guys can both be at that spiritual level that you guys both should be at the peak of your level, because you both give yourself fully to God, and then you guys can meet halfway and then be even closer to God together, if you understand what I'm saying. Okay, last question. Do you relate to the person of the opposite sex as if they're someone else's future husband? So think about that. Before you start to flirt with someone, before you start to say anything that you're going to regret or act a way you shouldn't, think of them as someone else's future spouse. Don't be flirting with some girl because you don't know that you're going to marry her. You don't know who's going to be dating her in the future. Girls, don't be saying things that you shouldn't, because that may be someone else's future husband. I'm sure you wouldn't want someone else talking to your future spouse the way you're talking to them. So just be careful what you do. Wait for God's timing, because He knows everything from the end to the beginning. Be content in it and enjoy the singleness. So that was basically the last 3 lessons, chapters. So there will be a new one on Tuesday, hopefully. Hope you enjoy. Get the book. Bye.